if any. Does anyone on council wish to change or add to the agenda?
I have a suggested addition to the agenda for this evening.
Okay, and what would that be?
It has to do with the boat ordinance and some of the comments that I believe ought to be considered for further discussion on the continued development of the boat ordinance.
Okay. Adding this to the agenda does require council consideration and approval. So I don't know if anyone has any comments. Start with Adam. You have any comments?
Just clarification, what exactly would you be adding to the agenda?
So it would be a couple of, so just to give you a little background, the last meeting that we had where we talked about the boat ordinance and we were suggesting some changes in language in the ordinance. After after that draft was created, after it simmered for a little while, looking at it again, I think that there might be a few points that are some areas that could be improved in the draft of the ordinance.
Yeah. Pretty sure those would fit into the public comments, but, you know.
In what aspect are we looking at as far as changes? Is it in favor of more restriction or less?
Well, the details, I think, would be discussed if we were to approve this as an agenda item, but it would be to address some of the points of the ordinance that I think are still deficient.
Understood. I think it needs to be heard. A consensus for me. I'm good.
It's going to require a motion and a vote, but
Yes, an action.
Susan, you have any comments?
No, I wouldn't want to add to more discussion tonight about it. I think it's been exhausted a bit.
Okay, so with that, I would entertain, and we can talk about it more. I think we have talked about it a lot. I understand your concerns, and I don't mind if we have a council discussion on the item. We can limit to the council discussion, that's fine with me.
Mayor,
Yes.
my concern is if we don't talk about it now, that it's going to prevent anything from happening on the next reading and it prolonging things longer than we've already gone. So I would like to see something, just my thoughts as far as when we go to, so we can get the preliminary stuff out of the way so we can get to a good read that everybody's satisfied with.
And that's where I'm coming from, Mayor. I learned today that you weren't going to be at the next city council meeting. Otherwise, I would have put this on the agenda for the next city council meeting.
Okay.
And P&Z is the following.
Okay.
So it gets a draft. If we have any more discussion, any changes, then P&Z would see a cleaner draft if we make any changes.
Okay. Well, I will entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to add to the agenda for tonight's agenda to discuss the boat ordinance coming up.
Okay. Need a second for that?
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by Councilmember Nutt, a second by Councilmember Iorio. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Nay.
All right, motion carries 3-2. We will add it on the agenda as item 10I. This will be a council discussion only. Okay, item number 6. It doesn't look like we have any presentations, proclamations, anything of that kind. So we'll skip on to the approval of minutes, which is item number 7 for the March 24th regular city council meeting minutes. Does anyone have any corrections that they want to see or any changes? Okay, hearing none, I will sign those into the record. On to item 8, reports. First is city manager's report. City Manager Coffey.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, council members, residents here and watching at home. Update about the Save Our Indian River Lagoon half-penny sales tax program. Staff attended a meeting with Brevard County officials last week regarding future funding opportunities, assuming renewal of the program in November. Brevard County had reviewed some of our unfunded stormwater projects and strongly encouraged us to apply in the next cycle. stating that they felt at least a couple of them could be approved in the next go-around. We will be submitting those once the portal opens up. Muck removal project update. Staff continues to work with Satellite Beach regarding MOUs and interlocals. At that Sorrells meeting, Brevard County provided us an updated tentative schedule. There'd been some misleading information on Facebook last weekend stating that the O'Galley project would end next summer. And we were told that means the dewatering of the sludge ends next summer, but our project, which we would go first before Satellite Beach, is tentatively scheduled to start work in April of next year. And also, my counterpart in Satellite Beach and I discussed the timing of the approval of the piggyback contract, and we were in consensus to do it in the first meeting in October, so that way the respective finance departments don't have to delete it from the 26 budget and add it to the 27 budget. And Brevard County was fine with that. Good news, elevator project finally was completed last week. On April 9th, I approved a change order for a total cost reduction of $17,000 for the Algonquin project. Part of that main savings is changing out part of the pad for the multi-purpose field. Although the term recycled pad may give some people concern, our engineers reviewed it. The manufacturer will honor the warranty as if it's new. Also, there's additional change order pending dealing with the realignment of the walking trail inside North Osceola to make room for a speed hump. There is also and the second FP&L conduit installation. The project originally assumed the new line to power the expansion area could be co-located with the relocated line to the tower. And so we are working with FP&L to get through that. Additionally, I've tentatively approved a no-cost time extension related to the FP&L easement and an AT&T fiber optic conduit issue, resulting in a new substantial completion date of July 31st. Baffle box project update. Work began on March 30th and is proceeding according to schedule. In response to concerns from an adjacent property owner, the contractor has installed vibrating monitoring equipment to ensure the levels don't exceed thresholds that could damage nearby structures. We're in the 9th inning on the communications manager recruitment. 2 final interviews were held yesterday. The last 2 interviews are tomorrow. I plan on having a third meeting with the top candidate next week to go over last couple things and potentially offer the job to that person. The fire department quarterly instant response and fire inspection plan review reports are attached. Legislative session update, the tracker is updated. There is no word yet on when the special session to finalize the budget is scheduled. The redistricting special session is scheduled to start April 20th. For those in the audience watching at home, the reason we are tracking the budget special session so closely is we have a state appropriations request to offset the cost of the fire annex, and until the budget's passed and signed by the governor, we won't know exactly how much, if any, we are awarded. The police department had a couple recognitions. Police chief received a written thank you note about records and evidence manager Jeannie Hoffine, her appreciation about helping getting crash data for her daughter's Girl Scout project, and impressed with Jeannie's professionalism and willing to assist. Police officers Ramos and Corporal Perez also got a phone call attaboy from a gentleman working a security consulting job for the plaza where Lowe's is, and was very complimentary of our staff and the police department in general, and wished that some of our officers could relocate to North Florida where they're not as nice police officers. And the best part of his thank you is he said if he hit the lottery, he would move to IHB where the police officers are friendly. Kudos to Chief Butler and his team. Tentative agenda for the next meeting on the 28th. We have Administrative Professionals Day, Proclamation, Employee of the Year presentation, items dealing with the Muck project, and hopefully award a contract for the City Hall restroom ADA upgrade project. And that concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Next is City Attorney's report.
John said we have a working agreement with Satellite Beach. We're waiting for their comments.
Okay.
So we have a working agreement with the city of Satellite Beach on the muck removal. John and I have prepared one. It's in their court, waiting for their attorney to review, and we're just sitting, waiting for their review. And pretty much that's about it.
Okay. Thank you. Next is council comments. I will start with Deputy Mayor.
Nothing to comment on.
Councilmember Romy.
Just quickly want to thank Councilmember Dyer and Councilmember Nutt for attending the Veterans Monument in the park. I appreciated them being there and all the staff. And I don't think we've had anything since Arbor Day. I don't think we've had a meeting. If not, just want to say it went off great, and thank the tree board for that one. That'll do it.
Okay. Councilmember Yorio.
Thank you, Susan, for bringing up the Arbor Day. That was one of the things I wanted to mention, that we had a wonderful Arbor Day celebration last Saturday, and a number of residents left with a new tree for their yard, courtesy of the city of Indian Harbor Beach. Weather was beautiful, and we planted a beautiful pigeon plum with the help of Quincy Smith. The other thing I wanted to mention is I attended the Space Coast League of Cities meeting last night in the city of Cape Canaveral. Mayor Nickel and Deputy Mayor Dyer were also in attendance, and I wanted to point out that this speaker, Dr. Dwayne DeFries, is a champion of the Indian River Lagoon and his many efforts to help promote the recovery of the lagoon. And he provided a shout out to our Deputy Mayor, Adam Dyer, for his participation in the One Lagoon Committee that Adam is the rep for. So I thought it was really great that he was the only person that was identified by name as a participant in that. So I really appreciate Adam's efforts on that, and I'm certain that Dr. DeFries was also very appreciative of that. Those are my comments.
Councilmember Nutt.
The sports complex extension is going well. They're working 7 days a week, I can tell you that, because I hear it every day. And I know Kristen's at home watching. She did a phenomenal job from the Recreation Department with the Easter egg hunt. Deputy Mayor was there, and we had a great time. It went off without a hitch, and it was a huge attendance. The rain stopped just in time, and we had a great time. That's it.
All right, that's good. All right, and I do not have any comments, so we'll move on to, excuse me, public comments for non-public hearing agenda items only. What I'm going to do is I'm basically going to move that to we have, looks like 3 speakers filled out papers to speak, and they're all on the same item. So when I get to that item, I will call you up one by one, and you'll have your chance to speak on that item. So we'll move along to new business, item 10. 10A is award of milling, paving, and striping contract via a piggyback contract from Brevard County. City Manager copy.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The fiscal year 26 budget contains $232,000 for the annual milling repaving project. City code permits piggybacking contracts from other public agencies that have competitively sourced the items. Staff located a contract with Brevard County for paving-related services with Goodson Paving, who we have used in the past. Public Works Director Scaldo has recommended the listed streets for milling and repaving. A contract for the restriping of the roads will be awarded separately, with the balance of the budget transferred to the city manager's contingency account. Therefore, recommend the city council award a not to exceed $198,000 contract to Goodson Paving, Inc. via piggyback contract with Brevard County for paving services.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone on council have any comments?
Just a quick comment. John, I was wondering, I didn't get to ask you, why was Cheyenne removed from the paving project, considering that's where the school is? Just,
Part of it is just trying to stay within budget. Public Works Director Scaldo's very good at that.
Okay. Anyone else on council have any comments?
No other comments. I'd like to make a motion to award a not-to-exceed contract of $198,000 to Goodson Paving Incorporated, piggyback contract with Brevard County for paving services.
Second.
Motion by Deputy Mayor Dyer, second by Councilmember Nutt. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, item 10B, confirmation of Pine Tree Drive, Banana River Drive traffic study change order. This is an action item, and this is the item that has three folks that want to come speak on it. So we'll let them go ahead and do that now. First person is David Smith. Please come up, state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is David Smith. I've been a resident of Indian Harbor for 30 years now. I've been at 1101 for 21 years. I was at 1030 Pine Tree in the condos for 8 years prior. Love this area. I drove by my house every day saying, man, I love that house. I finally got a chance to buy it. I have watched that intersection change from a stop sign on Banana River going eastbound, which to me, that's what it should be, because that is a street entering onto another street. And I watched that change from a stop sign to a yield to a yield. That has never made sense to me. It makes no sense at all. I have watched people get into shouting arguments because they think they have the right of way. A stop sign would cure that. That's what it used to be. And I have never seen a motor vehicle accident there. I've heard crashes in the middle of the night due to a drunk driver, where they tried to make a U-turn where the stop sign's at, and they ran over the rocks. I've never seen a motor vehicle accident at that yield to yield. I've seen arguments, but I've never seen crashes. For you to come up with a plan to alter the road to where Pine Tree is now a dead end in the middle of its road. You want to make a East Pine Tree and a West Pine Tree where you want to make Banana River Drive a continuation of Pine Tree? Makes no sense. I have my wife, she's not able to be here. I'm a lot calmer than she is. But she is vehemently against this plan. To me, it just makes no sense. I'd like to see it denied.
Okay, thank you. Just to offer some clarification, I believe the item, what's on the item, the agenda item for tonight is the traffic study change order, and that's to consider swapping the current yield signs for eastbound traffic, Banana River Drive and Pine Tree Drive, basically flipping that scenario so that somebody that is, see if I get this right, somebody who's eastbound on Banana River Drive would have the right of way over the Pine Tree Drive side. And the reason for that is simply because it's a heck of a lot easier if you're on Pine Tree to be able to see the Banana River Drive traffic coming than it is if you're on Banana River looking over passenger side and trying to, you've got a blind spot on your car on that side. So that's what we're considering tonight is a change order for the traffic engineer to continue the efforts, but we've abandoned the whole idea of making Pine Tree a dead end prior to the intersection eastbound. That's done and that's gone. We rejected that at the last meeting. So this is simply it's a signage change that we, in general, there was discussion about it making something that was sensible to do and that could alleviate some of the issues near the intersection, on the approach to the intersection. So I just want to clarify that in case anybody else thinks that we're creating a dead end, because we're not.
Yeah, that was the recommendation from the engineers, and we all unanimously
Yes.
decided that didn't make any
Yep.
sense.
And we
So,
discussed it
Yes.
extensively, and we ultimately decided, yeah, it doesn't make sense to do that. So, okay?
We live here too. We
Yeah.
go through
Oh,
that
yeah.
intersection all the time, so we understand.
Absolutely. All right, the next person is, I hope I get your first name right, Jovita Olive.
Hello, my name is Jovita Olive. I'm at 1103 Pine Tree Drive, and I am against this. I'm not exactly sure what you just said about swapping that around, but I'm a visual person. The pictures in the report had the stop sign at the end of my driveway, which I'd be totally against because that would back the traffic up behind it. I do want to say my parents moved into that house in 1976. So there's been someone in that house for 50 years in my family. And we've never had an issue. I don't think there's been much of an issue. I read the report by the traffic study group, and they reported on 2 accidents. And they had nothing to do with the crossover, as it's called in the report. They were both at the other side with Osceola and Pine Tree. And I'm just really against this. It's totally wrong. If you're going to put the stop sign, like I said, I don't understand what you just explained. But if I could understand it if there were more accidents there at that intersection, at the crossover. But we're reporting 2 accidents that were down at the other side of the street and not at the crossover, at the stop sign. And I have not seen issues since I've been there, or since my parents have been there.
Okay,
So,
well,
thank you. Please vote against it.
we've already rejected the recommendations from that traffic study. So I think it's okay, and it's not as, I don't know what you call it. It's offensive. I don't know if you call it offensive or not, but it's not as impactful to you folks as it was, as the recommendation suggested, okay? So we're not going, egregious, there we go. It's not as egregious. So we're talking about signage swap is what we're looking at this point, and it only has to do with the yield sign stuff. We're not going to dead end the road. That was the recommendation in the traffic study. We rejected that. Okay? All right. All right, next is Michelle Barano.
Hi, thank you for hearing me. I'm Michelle Barano. I'm at 1105 Pine Tree Drive, and I'm very glad to hear that you've decided against the dead end. However, I am still opposed to turning Pine Tree into the stop sign. That intersection, there's one area that can handle people being backed up, and it's Banana River going eastbound. If people are heading eastbound, there are no driveways that will be obstructed by morning or afternoon traffic being stopped at a stop sign. On Pine Tree, there are driveways. There are people that will be greatly inconvenienced if that change is made. If the problem is that people aren't really obeying the yield sign, I think it should be turned into a stop sign. And right now, it is confusing because it's a yield sign and it says yield to the traffic on the right. So The only problem I've ever had at this intersection, and it's not a major problem, I don't recommend making changes, but if you want to make a change to the signage there, turning Banana River back into a stop sign will solve all of the problems, because the closest thing to an issue is when you're going westbound down Pine Tree, crossing over to Banana River. If you want to go and veer left on Pine Tree, the people coming at you have a yield to the people on the right side. They don't know how to handle you coming in front of them and turning left. They don't know how to handle that. If that was just a stop sign or a yield to everybody sign, then that would be better for everybody. But barring that, again, there have been, I read the study too. I've been here 6 years. I haven't seen a single issue. There have been no accidents. It's not the big problem in our area, right? The report said there were two, as my neighbor said, there were two accidents. They were both rear end at the stop sign. One was against a parked car. This has nothing to do with that intersection. This is people not paying attention at a stop sign. So again, I recommend either no changes or make Banana River a stop sign and just solve everything and hold people accountable for stopping and yielding the way they're supposed to. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right. Next speaker is David Hulse.
Hello, my name is David Hulse. I live at 100 South Osceola, which happens to be the yellow house right there on the corner. I spoke to some of you last meeting, and as far as I understand the desire to change the yield sign. I don't necessarily feel that will achieve the desired result, because I feel that you still have the weird merge right there. I don't know what the best solution is. I personally my family was not against dead-ending the road, although while it doesn't make sense and it does cause issues, there are benefits to it. A stop sign, as we mentioned on Banana River, I can see how that makes sense, because that is the only thing that I've heard so far that addresses westbound traffic. All the discussions so far have been eastbound and that merge of the eastbound traffic. I have to not just turn when going westbound, turn left onto Banana River, I have to turn all the way into my driveway. And that really confuses people, because I'm flipping a U-turn to back into my driveway. It's not safe for me to back into those roads. So I always have to back into my driveway. I'm not sure what the best option is, understandably. I've only been here since 2020 in the area. But I'm not sure that just simply switching the signs is going to achieve the result that you all are looking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Bring it back to council for discussion. Deputy Mayor Dyer, would you like to start off? Or do you have any comments at all?
Yeah, it's definitely a interesting intersection. I think we talked last meeting. It makes sense to have your driveway on Osceola right there, so you can go in and out. That would avoid some of the issues, and actually that's your address side as well, I believe. This originally came up because I believe a gentleman was talking about had some blind corner, and if you have a trailer or something blocking that, you literally can't see. And we've all gone eastbound on Banana River, merging onto Pine Tree, and it's definitely complicated, but I think what we came up with is probably the best solution.
And again, keep in mind, this is to consider approval of a change order to the study to focus it on potential other changes that were not included in the original study, which is, again, it's the signage right now. So that's the purpose of this, and that's something that the traffic engineer is going to look at, is what kind of signage changes can be made that would make sense. He may very well come back with really it's the way it is fine. Or he might suggest an additional stop sign. Or no change whatsoever. I don't know. We don't know this until we have them do the work. So we're not moving forward with the prior recommendations, and we're looking towards something a little simpler, something less impactful to the area residents. So, Councilmember Rome?
I guess I'm having different thoughts since Sergeant Barbary, I think, said there was really never an accident there. I know someone mentioned the 2 rear ends, but it just doesn't seem like there is that much of a problem. I know one person brought this up and it sort of became a thing. But I would like to say, I don't even think there should be the traffic study or anything. I think it should be left as is. Just if there hasn't been any accidents and there's really not a problem. I know David referred to it as malfunction junction and, keep it as is.
Okay. Councilmember Yorio?
I think just because there hasn't been an accident so far doesn't mean there'll be one in the future. I do agree that the yield signs are problematic because of what we had just discussed earlier about having to crane your neck all the way around to look behind you to see who's coming up on your right-hand side. So to me, it makes the most sense, and that's just my intuitive thought here, is that the yield signs are misplaced. And if we were to swap the yield signs, that might be a way to resolve the problem without doing any major changes. But I thought the stop sign suggestion that was made might be part of the traffic study. So what we're talking about is just having a traffic study to create the basis for making a decision for the council to move forward with. Whether we accept that change or that suggestion by the traffic study or not is going to be up to the board.
Councilmember Nutt?
So the the changes to the study that we're asking for is to what we had a consensus on, to change the yield signs. Basically, it's kind of reverted back the way it was. Going to your point of the arguments that happened in that confusing yield section between east and westbound Pine Tree and Banana River. So what it's going to do is kind of alleviate that. It's going to make, that's our version of trying to alleviate that, having to yield from one side to the other, just swapping it around. That's all we're trying to do. Just to kind of get rid of that argument that you're referring to where people are having a fuss, because I drive it all the time. I know exactly what you're talking about, where people get frustrated about who's yielding to who, and it just gets a little out of hand. So I do think that it can be problematic, and if we don't do something, there may be something in the future. And yes, it is, what I mentioned before is that it's a landmark intersection. If you live here, you know that intersection, and that's why we haven't had any accidents there, like you mentioned. So people are familiar with it. Let's try to come to common ground, and I think we came up with that when we asked for this change order.
Okay, thank you. And I said my piece, I think, so I really don't have any more comments, but so I would entertain a motion at this point.
I'd like to make a motion, confirm a Pine Tree, Banana River Drive traffic study change order.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Nutt, a second by Deputy Mayor Dyer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. Item 10C, School Year 26-27 School Resource Officer Memorandum of Understanding. This is also an action item. City Manager Coffey.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Attached is a proposed MOU to fund a school resource officer at Ocean Breeze for the next school year. The city will be reimbursed up to $77,000 for this. Is approximately a $3,000 to $4,000 increase from the current funding level. It is unclear whether they will have a summer school. There will be a summer school this year. Staff recommends the City Council authorize myself to execute the proposed MOU with Brevard Public Schools.
Okay, thank you. Any council concerns or comments? I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to authorize city manager to execute the proposed memorandum of understanding with Brevard Public Schools.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Romey, second by Deputy Mayor Dyer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item 10D, full-time firefighter / EMT staffing proposal. City Manager Coffey.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. To be clear on the first paragraph of the agenda memo, Councilmember Nutt and Deputy Mayor Dyer individually requested this. I don't believe there was any outside meeting conversation between the two of them, because while they each requested this topic, they each talked about different aspects of it with myself and Fire Chief Lewis. In the last year's budget cycle, Fire Chief Lewis requested and you approved, including funding for part-time maintenance specialist positions to try to take some of the work off of the volunteers in a way of encouraging more volunteer response. The number of certified volunteers interested in the part-time maintenance positions not reached anticipated levels. This proposal would shift part-time funding into full-time funding for 2 firefighter EMT positions. It is a revenue neutral shift, although there is planned additional part-time funding next year outside of the recurring budget. The thing to remember, full awareness, is that retirement contributions, health insurance, those have growth factors that are higher than just regular part-time wages. So there is some potential growth in future years. We believe this is a very prudent measure. I've attached a document Chief Lewis provided showing the anticipated increase in coverage at the station. Chief Lewis is a much better spokesman for this because he is the top fire chief I've ever known. If you have specific questions about his operations, I'd encourage you to ask him directly. I recommend you authorize staff to hire 2 full-time fire EMTs for the balance by reducing the part-time maintenance specialist positions.
Okay, thank you. Council comments. We'll start with our Deputy Mayor. Any thoughts?
Yes, I watched the process with Chief Lewis. And Chief, would you mind coming up for a couple questions? The challenge is, I believe we're going down this path because getting the volunteers to show up on a consistent basis and having them readily accessible, it seems to be the same few numbers of people, volunteers or members running the majority of the calls, correct?
That is correct, sir. Yes.
And I also see your vehicle going to most calls, but they're not just the high threat calls like car accidents and fires. You're running a majority of the day-to-day calls as well, right?
Yeah, every call demands our attention and our response.
Mm-hmm. How many calls do you think did you personally run, like medical calls, all in the city?
Last year, I attended about 70% of the calls for service that we had. This year, for the first quarter, I've attended 52%. I've slacked a little bit. I had a vacation in there, so. But yeah, we're up to 206 calls for the year so far this year.
So on top of running the administrative side and also setting up the plans for the annex and all that stuff, it's a hard. And then say you do show up for the higher level call, you're supposed to be the incident command structure to keep those guys safe. You're also the safety officer. So I know that it creates a lot of challenges when you're the frontline person coming from the fire department. I think it's a move in the right direction. I think this makes sense fiscally. It's responsible, and it provides a much better service for our residents. So I'm thrilled to see this moving forward.
Thank you, sir. And if I might make a comment to draw everyone's attention, this is a budget neutral item. We're taking the budget that we were given, that we've only been able to cover 20% of the shifts. We're flipping it, and this is going to get us 70% coverage with that same money. So,
Good. Very good. Councilman Rowe, any comments?
No real comment other than to say I think it's a great idea and definitely support hiring 2 full-time firefighters.
Councilmember Yorio?
I have a question regarding the numbers. So as proposed, and I'm very much in support of this, by the way.
Certainly.
But I just need maybe some help understanding the numbers because what's proposed here is it's like a zero balance or a zero-sum game here with regard to this plan. But when I look at the numbers, I'm seeing a balance of 109,000. Can someone explain what this math means?
Car math.
That first chart that says fiscal year 26 budget as of April 20th, there's a balance of $177,000 in the part-time line item. The cost of hiring 2 full-time firefighters will spend approximately 67 of that the rest of the year,
For the remainder of the year,
leaving the
okay.
chief 109,000 for part-time funding. When you drop down to the next page, that shows the full year cost projected for fiscal year 27 of the firefighter EMT positions. The current level remaining of the part-time money, which is 0.59, and then what we planned on adding next year of 0.41 maintenance specialists to get you up for a firefighter maintenance budget of $202,000.
Thank you, John. That clarifies it for me.
Councilmember Nutt?
Chief, I remember we had this discussion, obviously, and we're able to cover, we're able to meet the demands of the requirements of hiring a full-time firefighters with that 50-hour work week. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. The other thing I wanted to know is I wanted something outlined. I know you had statistics before about the majority of our calls, what days and hours of the day they were. So we're going to meet 70% or 80% of those calls during those timeframes with these hired.
The schedule of the personnel is going to be over the peak demand period,
Correct.
which coincides with the workday that everyone else has.
Right.
So that's why we're having trouble getting coverage for that with volunteers, because most people work during the day. So this is going to cover that somewhere between, let's say, 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. That's when the majority of our calls come in. And then after hours, it'll be handled by volunteers up until such time that we have sleeping quarters and we can have a 24/7 round-the-clock schedule at the firehouse.
Then we're going to see a better response out of, as far as the volunteers being able to respond, let's put it that way. So we'll see better numbers coming out of that. So we can, I really want to make sure that we're still a hybrid fire department as of now. And I want to emphasize our volunteer firefighters because they're a backbone of our fire department.
Absolutely. We are a small community. We could not afford to man a 40-person fire department
Right.
and cover the positions that the national standards say that we need to cover. So we do this through a hybrid model where we have our full-time firefighters that make sure those trucks get out the door and get going, and we supplement with volunteers when we have those critical high demand, high need for manpower calls where we can rely on our volunteers and we can rely on our neighboring departments to come and help us, and then we provide that same reciprocal service back to them.
Thank you, Chief.
It's a very efficient and economical way to do this.
And I believe another city has a similar hybrid model like this, correct? Where there's 2 full-time staffers in the Atlantic, I believe.
Yes, this is Indy Atlantic's current model.
Okay. And I really don't have anything more to add. I'm totally in favor of this. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. With that, entertain a
I'd
motion.
like to make a motion to authorize hiring 2 full-time firefighter EMTs for the balance of fiscal year 26 at no additional cost.
Second.
I have a motion by Deputy Mayor Dyer, a second by Councilmember Romy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item 10E, Resolution Number 26-04, which is Revised Employee Pay and Classification Plan. City Manager Coffey.
Did you want Nikki to read the resolution first?
Take it away, Nikki.
All right. Resolution number 26-04, a resolution of the City of Indian Harbor Beach, Brevard County, Florida, amending Resolution number 26-01, revising the employee pay and classification plan for fiscal year 2025-2026 in accordance with Article 6, Section 4B of the City Charter, providing severability and an effective date.
Okay, thank you. City Manager Coffey.
Beginning in 2023, the City Council has formally adopted an employee pay and classification plan that contains authorized job titles with pay grades minimum starting pay, maximum pay. There are more job titles than there are jobs filled, but that gives the department directors flexibility. To add a position such as what you just authorized, full-time firefighter EMTs, that are not in the current pay plan requires the pay plan to be amended. 2 positions are recommended to be added at this time. The first is the firefighter EMT, and the second is a police records and evidence clerk position that will be discussed in the next upcoming agenda item. You can pass this resolution, and if you choose not to go forward with the next one, that records evidence clerk position will be unfilled. So you're not committing yourself on that vote. But this does provide transparency to the community of positions and our pay structure. Therefore, I recommend the City Council adopt resolution number 2604, amending resolution 2601, adopting a revised fiscal year 26 employee pay and classification plan.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone on council have any comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to amend resolution number 2601, which adopted a revised fiscal year 26 employee pay and classification plan.
I'll second.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Adopt resolution number 26-04, amending resolution 2601. Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Deputy Mayor Dyer, second by Councilmember Yorio. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item 10F, Dispatch Services Agreement with Brevard County Sheriff's Office. City Manager Coffey.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I will apologize for being a little long-winded on this one. It's a little more complex than my typical summary introductions. Earlier this year, in the Florida legislature, House Bill 1427 and Senate Bill 1586 were filed that would require all municipal dispatch centers to be consolidated to their respective sheriff's office dispatch centers within a few years. Although these bills died in committee, most people who watch the legislature believe it is very likely that these bills will pass next year. Our sheriff is a big proponent of these bills. That is the first part of the story. Historically, the city of West Melbourne and town of Mel Beach have contracted with Brevard County Sheriff's Office for dispatch services. Over the last several months, the cities of Cocoa Beach and Satellite Beach have entered into agreements to transfer their dispatch services from in-house to contract with Brevard County Sheriff's Office. The town of Indian Atlantic is currently considering a similar move. Each of these communities have been presented with approximately 90% reduction in recurring dispatch costs. Additionally, the Sheriff's Office has provided an offer of employment to all current dispatch employees. It's not saying a guaranteed employment, but they have to go through their screening process and background, but they would offer a job to interview them. That is not something that BCSO is willing to do if they have to take on the big cities of Palm Bay and Melbourne all at one time. Therefore, with the financial condition the city is in of lowering growth in property values, knowing that this is coming and an opportunity to provide a landing spot for our employees, I asked Chief Butler to begin a dialogue earlier this year about a possible transition for our work. Simultaneously, Comptroller Dolan's started crunching the numbers to give us a framework. The attached proposal, which has been reviewed by Chief Butler, Chief Lewis, and City Attorney Bone, would transition dispatch services to BCSO no later than June 15th of this year, and request the city makes a $60,001 one-time payment regarding the transition of equipment. Annual costs for a 3-year contract is locked in at $60,000 a year. The financial impact to the city for this year would be $100,000 net savings to the budget. In future years, just personnel side, $380,000. The operating side is somewhere between $20,000, $30,000. The reader should note that later in the agenda is a discussion about severance, a severance package to our current dispatch employees. That is a separate issue, but that is factored into the above costs. In an ideal world, we would not be presenting this to you. However, as we talked in the budget kickoff meeting a few months ago, we are facing a deficit of our operating budget next year. I believe that this is a good proposal for all involved. The residents who need public safety services are going to have this virtually the same experience. They'll be talking to a person in Rockledge rather than up the street. There are some hurdles to get through the transition with our fire department. Chief Lewis can speak to those. But this is something that, however unpleasant, we're saying goodbye to some of our fellow teammates. It is something that I recommend you approve the proposed dispatch service agreement with BCSO and authorize myself to execute the necessary agreements. And needless to say, both chiefs are here if you have specific questions of them.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Dyer, would you like to, do you have any comments?
I just want to reiterate, as city manager said earlier, it's always hard, when you have to make these decisions and you never want to see any of your people, leave. This is some of the things that they're talking about with the budget constraints for next year with the potential property tax reduction. And it sounds like it's going to, work out for some of the members. They're going to have landing spots and also reduce cost with the same level of service to the city. So I believe this one makes sense.
Councilmember Romey.
I agree with what Adam said, and after talking to Chief Butler at length, it sounds like we need to get ahead of the legislation, and we can hopefully get jobs for our people by getting ahead of it, so I would support this as well.
Okay. Councilmember Yorio.
I echo Deputy Mayor Dyer's and Councilmember Romey's comments. I had the exact same thoughts, and I think that being proactive in this particular instance is going to be to the best benefit of those affected.
Councilmember Nutt?
I'm in agreement. I did have a question for Chief Butler. Is it my understanding that the BCS, the Brevard County Sheriff's Office, actually is in need of dispatchers at this time? So there are openings, and they're trying to find qualified candidates for that.
Yes.
And with us being kind of the first to do this, we have better opportunity. So we're in the front of the line of them getting employment. Whereas we look at more near the end of the year, we're looking at some tax reforms that may come down the line. Other cities are going to follow suit, and those jobs may not be available.
That is a possibility,
All
yes.
right, I just want to make sure that, because I want people to understand that this is a very tough decision, and I know it was a very tough decision for you. And I sympathize with you, but we know what something we had to do and be proactive about it. And I appreciate you, Chief. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree with everyone's comments. This is a difficult decision, but with the budget constraints we are facing, it's something that makes complete sense to do. And so, therefore, I would be in favor of doing this. So, with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed dispatch service agreement with BCSO, authorizing the city manager to execute the necessary agreements.
Second.
Motion by Deputy Mayor Dyer, second by Councilmember Romy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Item 10G, proposed severance for police department dispatch employees. City Manager Coffey.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The affected employees were notified on March 25th after I had privately briefed you with Chief Butler of our intent to put the last agenda memo on the council for consideration. One dispatch employee has already resigned, and the 5 remaining employees are either actively looking for new jobs or are in the process of securing new jobs. 2 have applied for other positions in the city. With the planned cutover date no later than June 15th, I believe we have a vested interest in incentivizing the 5 remaining employees to stay with us through the cutoff date. This agenda item requests your authorization for staff to present severance proposals to these 5 employees that would pay them 6 weeks severance if they remain working for us through the cutoff date. If an employee signs an agreement and leaves early, they don't get the severance agreement. There is no requirement to sign this severance agreement. If they wish to just continue working for us under the normal employment conditions, these are employees covered by a collective bargaining agreement, we'll be happy to do that. While the funding is available, this is something that I don't believe I should be doing without your consent. Of note, state law bars local governments from providing employees without employment agreements more than 6 weeks severance. So if you want to know why I picked 6 weeks, that's the maximum the law allows. Mr. Bone helped me throughout the weekend revising the severance agreement drafts that I gave you earlier today. If by consensus you authorize this, these will be presented to the affected employees this Friday by our city clerk, HR manager, Ms. Gold.
Okay. Thank you. Start with our deputy mayor. Any comments?
No comments.
Councilmember Romy?
No comments other than this sounds fair.
Councilmember Yorio.
I concur with the city manager's recommendation.
Councilmember Nutt.
No comment.
Okay. I'm in agreement with the city manager's recommendation as well. So it's a consensus item.
So, well, yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I'm in agreement.
Okay. All right, consensus it is. All right, item 10H is authorization to dispose of surplus fixed assets. City Manager Coffey.
As referenced in a previous agenda item, the agreement with BCSO for dispatch services includes a transfer of radio console and software. Staff requests the city council's permission to dispose of this by transferring it to the sheriff's office. The formal recommendation is to find the continued use of the Symphony radio console and related software to be uneconomical, inefficient, serving no useful function, that city council declares that said fixed asset as surplus and authorize its disposal by donation to BCSO pursuant to section 274.05 Florida statutes.
Who knows? Any comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion as read. So moved.
Get rid of it.
Second.
I have a motion by Deputy Mayor Dyer, second by Councilmember Romey. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, new item that's not on the published agenda that was added at the beginning of the meeting will be item 10I, and that's boats and trailers. Councilmember Yorio. Turn it over to you.
Okay, it looks like we're handing
Grab one
out
and
some
take-
stuff. Take one and pass it on. Okay,
This
So-
is a copy of the revised
The
ordinance.
revised one.
And I'm working to get it up on the screen.
Okay, so first, I'd like to thank the council for agreeing to hear these comments. We have been going through quite a few discussions on the amendment to our boat ordinance, and I think that we, at the last city council meeting, we provided a lot of suggestions. They were taken down and turned into a draft amendment. And after reviewing the draft amendment, I felt that there were a couple of items that we should bring back up for consideration. This is a discussion item for this particular meeting, but the first is, when you read the ordinance with the requirements that are in it now about the length of the boat and where it can be parked and whether or not it can be on the side of the house or in front of the house, we have not considered requiring a permit in order to enact this ordinance. And the reason why I think a permit is important is because it allows enforcement of the ordinance. So if we don't have if a boat owner is able to demonstrate that they cannot park their boat behind the front line of their house, and the amendment, as the draft amendment as written, provides for language that allows a person to park their boat in the front, in front of the front line of the house, that the city has no way of enforcing that ordinance. So I think a permit would be an important consideration as part of that. Two other comments. One is the length of the boat was in the draft determined to be no greater than 26 feet. Boats, a Class 1 recreational boat is between 16 feet and 26 feet, so that's where the 26-foot length comes from. A 26-foot boat is very big, and in fact, many properties probably could not fit a 26-foot boat and still comply with the ordinance if it's parked in front of their house. So if you were to investigate and research what an average length of a recreational boat is, it's 21 feet, which I think is a much more reasonable length for a boat to be parked in front of somebody's house. And then there was other language that discussed the overall height of the boat being no more than 14 feet above the ground. If you research what average heights are of boats, it's 14 feet from the hull. 14 feet is almost twice as high as the roof line of a house, so that means a 14-foot boat on top of a trailer is going to be double the height of the edge of the roof. So these are considerations that I think might be a good compromise, particularly since there was a very large turnout of people that were opposed to the ordinance amendment, and that would be something that would make, I think, the compromise in the wording of the amendment to be more acceptable to the overall public. And I just want to make one more note, and that is regarding the length of the boat. If you consider a boat sitting on somebody's driveway or in front of their house, it should be considered in the same context as a car. So cars, SUVs, and vans are all less than 18 feet long. And a cargo van, a big cargo van, is typically less than or equal to 22 feet. So that is what I'm basing the length suggestion for the boat at maxing at 21 feet and not at the maximum length of a Class 1 recreational boat of 26 feet. So those are the 3 points I wanted to make for our consideration in the ordinance amendment.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I understand your comments. I do want to reiterate, for those of you who might have been at the last meeting where we had discussion, just because we're talking about language collectively and trying to agree upon all the nuances for that language, it doesn't mean there's this commitment to adopt or reject a new ordinance. It's simply to have language ready that is as palatable as it can possibly be if it is to get approved. So if that makes any sense. So there may be folks on the board who are against adopting a new ordinance, and there's going to be some potentially that are for it. So I just want to make that, I just want to reiterate that. Yeah, I understand your comments. I am not a boater. I like to go out on boats, but not mine. I don't own one. I owned one a long time ago, and I believe it was a 17 or 18-foot boat. But so I don't profess to know a lot about boats, but I did drive around the city great length about a week and a half ago or so. And I didn't drive down every single street in the city, but I did a fair amount of it. And yeah, there's boats of all sizes parked all over the place, for sure. And I did see some that were quite large and looked just way too big for the lot that they were on. But I don't know what the length of that boat was. It's not like I got out and used my measuring tape and know what that is. I mean, I guess at it all day long, but I probably wouldn't get it quite right. So difficult for me to make that judgment as to what that size was and what is or is not truly appropriate for that. The height, I could see working on that a little bit potentially to bring that down a bit. And then I'm not so sure about the permit for enforcement. I think enforcement is potentially the issue, when it comes down to it. If something is adopted, somebody's version of whether it can fit on the side of their yard may not marry up to our code enforcement's interpretation of that. Do you have a foot on each side of the boat? You got to prove it out. You have to measure. You literally have to physically measure it to see if it fits and to confirm whether or not a person does not have to park on the side of their house and can in fact park in their front yard area, in their driveway area. So enforcement is, I think that's a challenge. It's a challenge with a lot of our codes. That's just the way it is. So I'm not sure I'm in favor of a permit, requiring a permit on this. So that's just my 2 cents on this. I will defer now down to Deputy Mayor Dyer.
Yes, I would agree with your comments on the no permit. I believe it can be, code enforcement could drive by and then, if it looks out of the size limit, they could inspect it there and then also go out and it would create a lot of extra work, I believe, on the city. The reason why we came up with the 26 feet is the majority or the majority boats in this area are bay boats, and the average size is 21 to 24 foot. So the 26 foot would cover that, the more common sizes as well. And I think the reason why we came up with that height was also a lot of those boats have T-tops. And I think it is a very good point. It's prudent to point out that this just talks about the language, and it still has to go to a first and second reading, so we're not adopting it. But I think we've talked about this for 4 meetings now. I think the language in the current ordinance was fine.
Councilmember Romy.
Neil, when you were mentioning 21 feet, was it 21 feet including the trailer or just?
21 foot for the length
whole-
of the boat. So at the
We
last
talked about
meeting, we
both
discussed
sides.
the length
Okay.
of the trailer being not considered part of the overall length.
Got it. I don't think the permit's the worst idea because the enforcement of this will be the challenge because you can't go on people's property and measure things. So at least if there was a decal or something, driving by, enforcement would be able to see that. So I do think the permit's a good idea. I think it might be one of the only ways to enforce this. Yeah, those are my thoughts for now.
May I comment on your comment, Susan? So the purpose of the permit is what allows for enforcement. We have several requirements in the city to receive a permit for doing various things, replacing your garage door, your roof. What that does is it allows for the city building inspector to come onto your property and verify that the work was done correctly. When a permit is submitted for approval of a boat to be parked in front of your house, the onus is on the property owner to demonstrate that they have no other option than to park it in front of the house with the measurements that they can provide that proves that. When I had to replace a fence in my yard, I had to get a permit for that fence. The building inspector came out to my house and measured, to make sure that my fence was going to be on my property, verifying the property corners. And it was the onus was on me to provide a drawing to the city building inspector to demonstrate that I was actually putting the fence on my property. I see this being very similar, where the boat owner would have to demonstrate to the city through a permit process that they can fit the boat or not on the side of their house.
Okay, so you clarified this a little more for me. I was thinking in general, you wanted a permit for all boats, regardless if they were parked on the side or in the front area. But what you're saying is a permit required for those parked in the front of the house only. Okay, all right, that makes more sense to me.
During our last meetings, one of the concessions that we made was put in this draft that if it cannot fit on the side of the road, it was allowed in the front. So there has to be some type of enforcement on that. And I agree with Neil on this, that we need to actually, the permit is a perfect example of what we need to do in order for that. Now, what were you referring to as far as the height? Is it from the ground up? The 14?
Well, a lot of boats have a maximum of 14 height up to, say, the top of the T-top or any other unmovable portion of the
Correct, but
boat.
we have it written as from the ground
From the
up.
ground up, but still, if that's 14 feet, it's 6 feet higher than the roof edge. So from a aesthetic, one of the concerns about a lot of the opposition to the boat ordinance was the large boats on people's property, and if part of that concern was that the boat is twice as tall as the house or the edge of the roof, that might be, a consideration.
I agree with you to a point, but I've gone out, met my neighbors that have these 26-foot boats that are of that height, and I've done my own assessment. So I want to make sure that we're meeting their needs, that if it was below, that they couldn't meet that 14, they're going to have to move their boat. And they're already on the side of the house, for crying out loud, So,
Well, I'm only
and
considering
the ones
boats that are
that
parked in
in the
front of
front.
the front line of the house.
yeah, I understand. I just,
If it can
So-
fit behind the
So
front line of the
you're right.
house, it can be.
The change, what you're saying is the change in height that you would like to see, the reduction in height, would be for the boats that would be parked in front of the front line of the house only, just like the permit.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't think we're going to be able to accomplish that with the size boats of being 24 feet that, or max, that four.
I'm just clarifying his.
I understand
what
that.
he's- what he's
I
trying
don't
to
think we're
achieve.
going to be able to meet that standard.
And I just, well, hold on, I want to say something. Also, back to the permits, typically permits come at a cost, right? And it's going to cost the residents some money for a sticker and going through the permitting process, and it's going to increase work on city workers. And in the roof line comment, I mean, so is a tree. And trees, I think above the roof line's not really a big issue personally, but.
Correct.
That's a great point, Carl.
30-foot boat? No, kidding.
It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. That's not a,
You're not being facetious.
Well, what I was considering
It has
was
to
the
be
front edge of the
described.
house.
I don't think it
think,
matters, because that's not, you're not gonna put language in the code, no matter what, that is relative to a house's roof. To
Just the height of
control
the
a
boat.
boat height.
yeah,
think.
I mean, if you're considering boats that are parked on a driveway or in front of the house, they should be considered kind of in the same, realm of a car, a van or a car or something like that. So those are much shorter in length. They're certainly not taller than the roof line. But regardless of the roof line conversation, the permit, I think, is really the key component of this, because it allows for enforcement. It gives the city the ability to go on the property and measure it. The boat owner, through the permit process, has to demonstrate that they can't fit it on the side of their house, which is part of the amendment. Now we have to verify that. We can't do that without a permit. The permit comes with a cost. The cost is a lot cheaper than sending your boat to storage. So I think it's a very good compromise to consider that.
Last comment on the proof. The challenge that we discussed last meeting was backing a boat up. So we've all seen those videos where people back up trailers. It's not pretty. So the permit would be the space would have to be on both sides, and it would have to allow a lot of room. So I think just the permit, we would just be essentially nitpicking everything. So.
The amendment as written provides for a foot on either side of the trailer wheels to provide that extra room to make up for that tolerance of backing up the boat.
Okay, so does anyone,
I'm sorry, explain that again about the tolerance.
So in the last meeting, we had talked, this comment was brought up, I think Adam brought this up about, being able to park your boat on the side of your house. You need clearance
Correct.
between a fence and the wall or the roof.
Correct.
So the current amendment has language in there that says they're allowing an extra 12 inches on either side of the boat trailer.
From the
So-
wheel
So
well.
that's the tolerance of getting the boat into this parking spot.
Because I know that there's holes that overhang wheel wells all right.
Well, that would, right, so I guess it would be whatever the widest part of the boat and trailer ensemble
Yeah.
Correct.
is.
Okay,
yeah, the widest part of
that's better language.
trailer and/or boat. That makes sense. Okay, so as far as the length of the boat goes, does anyone still, and we know where you stand on it, anybody else have any issues with the 26 feet. Do you want to, does anyone else want to see a reduction in the allowable length? Yeah, I don't think I do either. I mean, I'm okay with the way that's written. I'm just trying to go to each one of your items here and then try to boil it down and see if there's one or more of the items that we want to try to insert into this language. The height, anybody want to see a change in that? There, David? No, I'm not in favor of that either. The permit. One of the things we could do is, I'm just picking this item just as one, if we wanted to add it in, there's nothing saying that we can't modify that when it comes to council in its formal stage. Still got to go through P and Z. So when it comes to us, we're going to have a first reading and a second reading, right? So we'll have two more bites at the apple, so to speak, to make any adjustments and discuss it. And frankly, you know, some of the people that were here have been here at all these meetings and have shown up, whether they're for or against. So it gives them a chance to be here at an advertised meeting to give their input. So with that being said, and there's no, you know, this doesn't prevent you from bringing it up again at the next council meeting and the following one after that. But if we want to put the permit requirement in for now and we just highlight it, I think that's something we could do. That's my personal take on that. So that's how I would, in my mind, that's where I'm going with it.
No permit for me.
Okay, so we have 1, 2, 4 permits, 4 for a permit and 1 against, correct? All right. Okay.
Back to you again. Or at this point, we just
No.
want to put it in and push it to P and Z?
I think we just, we put that in there, put the permit in there
Okay.
and push it to P and Z and let them consider it and make their recommendations.
So I'd like to thank the city council for entertaining my motion to add this to the agenda and the very thoughtful discussion that we had on this topic.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Next is public forum. I have a few folks that have put in speaker cards here. I'll call you up individually. Please come up, state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. First person is Ryan McKay.
My name's Ryan McKay, 250 Elm Avenue, Satellite Beach, and I own and operate hook and reel charters, and I've been using Oars and Paddles Park to pick up and drop off my clients, and just would like a little clarification. I was told I was no longer to use the park, and been using the park since 2021, so just a little clarification.
John, that's a permit required type of activity, isn't it?
Correct. The code says you can't operate a business in a park without a permit.
Okay.
Even just to pick up and drop off people?
Definition of,
Yeah, it's still operating
It is.
business. And
So-
so just this first I really am hearing of this. I heard a little bit of it, but not enough to know exactly what was happening. But it's a super busy park. And that's the one thing that is, you know, I'm all pro-business, don't get me wrong, but it's busy as it is. I know you've been doing this for a while. I just saw last weekend there were cars everywhere on both sides of Banana River Drive. Obviously, the park, you know, itself was packed full of cars. That would, I'm just telling you, that would be my concern for such an activity. But the bottom line is, if a permit's required, you need to apply for a permit. That's my take on that.
So it's a public park, right? Correct? Public park?
Yes, it still
Okay.
requires a permit, though.
Is
City park.
it, Yeah, it's a city-owned park, yeah. There's the business, like, if it's running out of the park, yes. Is the business based out of the park or no? Okay,
Just pick up and drop off.
so it's just literally pick up,
Less
drop
than
off.
5 minutes a day, yeah.
City park, I mean, maybe I would have to go up to interpretation from the attorney, hold on, and see what operating out of a park is compared to a public, a city park.
If I might, what, John and I analyzed this. And what got it for me was when we looked at his website or whatever it is, and if you look up there, it's pinned. He uses the park's address as his business address for that. So that's what got it for me, right there. But to answer your question, Mr. Dyer, if it's just a pick up and drop off and the transaction has occurred elsewhere, that probably wouldn't be doing business, but the business address is what got me. And we also have an anti-mooring ordinance as well. So he's not supposed to moor on the dock
What's
as well, so,
what's the definition of mooring? The legal definition, sorry.
question, I don't know.
Okay, I just, my point is pulling up and parking, and like,
Physically tying
Holding
up.
on to
It
the
is.
Yeah,
post,
physically
yeah,
tying
I
up.
don't know.
okay, so are you tying up to
Yes.
that? Okay.
But for I thought mooring was for an extended period of time.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
believe too as well. And is your business address actually stated as the park, or is that just posted
I
online?
guess, yeah, it's just posted on my website.
Okay, so that's not actually your physical
No.
business address?
No,
Okay, so
change that.
sounds like, I mean, I get the intent, but if it's extended, multiple, so to speak, charters, to me, this is a public, or it's a city park. He's not clogging up anything. To me personally, I think this is kind of a non-issue, but
How
I
did
think
this
we need
come
to.
up in the first place?
Yeah,
We had complaints from the neighbors across the street of two businesses operating in the canal, the charter fishing company and a tiki bar that motoring up to sell drinks. And the way we found the businesses is based on their advertisements on the internet. I have his business Facebook page up on the screen that shows our park as the location of his business.
Yeah,
So,
those are two complaints, but I think they're kind of different cases, apples and oranges, but.
so let me present something that, so what if, I don't know the name of your company, I don't, but ABC Boat Charters decides they want to come there too. And then so another competitor, which is could certainly happen. How do we regulate that?
John, in the research on this particular topic, isn't there another charter boat that uses the dock for picking up?
Not that we're aware of.
So it's just the one
We'd have sent
right now.
them a letter, and to try to expedite resolution to this is if you're inclined to let him operate his business in our park, I'd appreciate a motion tonight, because I will deny all permits for businesses in the park because I can't pick and choose who gets to operate in our parks.
That's what I'm
That was
getting
my
to, that's
concern, too.
exactly what I was
So it's
getting
gonna
to.
come,
is
it's gonna come back
Where
to
do you draw the
you.
line? And, that's a very clogged park as it is, it's very well used. That would be my concern is not so much your business itself. I believe you that you pull up and in 5 or 10 minutes, everybody's on board and off you go, and then you drop them off and you take off. But my concern is multiple businesses. You already mentioned a tiki bar, floating
Correct.
tiki bar, and I've seen those docked over there at the marina adjacent. So I presume that's what you're talking about. I've got an issue with a tiki bar coming up and selling drinks at our city park. It's just not appropriate.
I would agree, but I would like to also state that I still think that there's a difference between these two incidences, and it would, I'd be cautious of worrying about something that could happen when it's not really an issue yet. It's only been one complaint with one person. And still, like I said, sounds like if the address isn't based out of there, it's just posted, then it's not a business out of that park, so it's still not, he's not conducting business.
This all, like you said, it stemmed from one complaint, but I think there was multiple. It was the one person that was representing more on that canal there about this. And are you registered? Do you have a business tax receipt here in the city of Indian Harbor Beach?
Answer is no.
I'm sorry, but it just looks like a slippery slope, and that right there is a nail in a coffin for me. So I'm sorry about that.
I pay local taxes.
Excuse me?
I live in Satellite Beach and I pay local taxes here.
I understand, but businesses have business tax receipts as well if they operate out of the city. It affords you, incentives to be here, and I mean, I'm almost positive that if that tiki bar hadn't come by, you wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, I think it's a slippery slope.
And to the point I was trying to make, that's exactly what I was trying to say, was, okay, you're different business, I understand, but nonetheless, people start seeing that activity happen where you got clearly a business happening at the park, maybe brief as it is. Where's the cutoff point? How do you manage that? I don't know how you can do that. It means that if we were to, let's say you applied for a permit and we granted a permit to you, how do we deny anybody's permit at that point? And then it's a true mess at that point. And I get it, it's one complaint, but it's highlighted a situation that I think is, potentially a lot more substantial. So I'm just going to stick with it. It requires a permit, and so you go through the permit process. If it gets approved, it gets approved. If it gets denied, it gets denied.
Isn't that something you're trying to avoid?
Well, it's
No,
in the ordinance. I mean,
I'm saying up front, I'm not going to approve any permits for businesses in our parks because, if I deny a permit, they can appeal that decision to you. So I think for the gentleman's sake of time, if you can come to a consensus, he's not going to waste his time filling out a permit and then me putting this back on the agenda for you to deny it.
Understood.
Or approve it.
This doesn't mean I won't take a business card from you.
Thank you.
All right, next is John Liu. Hopefully I got that right. All right, that's what I strive for.
My name is John Liu. My wife, Gail Tanner, who's couldn't be here tonight, and I are residents of Melbourne. We want to be residents of Indian Harbor Beach. On a positive note, I haven't owned a boat in 10,000 years, so that's good. Bad news is my blood pressure spikes every time I go on Banana River and come up on that junction right there. So I have, not to waste time, but I have two old pickup trucks and one now new Tesla with the full self-driving, and I always disengage this full self-driving when I come up on that intersection, not with the truck, so I'm okay with that. But at any rate, 3 weeks ago today, I signed a contract to purchase a property, and this is more of a prologue because I'm going to be submitting a formal request to the city, but signed a contract for the purchase of a property that has some sizable code enforcement liens going back to 2017 that are still active and are still racking up dollars. I'll let you figure out what those dollar amounts are, but they're very significant. As a building contractor, I am very familiar with code enforcement processes and lien reduction requests for other jurisdictions, not here in City of Indian Harbor Beach, because I don't think that comes up very often. This is, I think, a more unusual case. But the home itself is actually, I'm planning for it to be owner-occupied. It's going to be my wife and my homestead. Okay, so it's a very different scenario,
but again, I'm very comfortable with. So this is more of a prologue, because I'm going to be making a request and then appearing at the next hearing. But some things to think about for the city is bringing the property in compliance pre-closing going to be a prerequisite to even considering mitigation or reduction of the lien? Or is it perhaps one of those things where they say, well, so long as post-closing you bring it into compliance within X period of time, pull all the necessary permits, then we'll go ahead and consider a reduction, or no reduction at all, go away, go pound sand, or perhaps another alternative. And then there's also other considerations like if it has to be brought into compliance prior to the lien being released, then to what extent does the property have to bring up fully to code, or is it one of those things where we just need to perhaps just make it less of an eyesore? So if anyone has any questions, you can ask right now, and if not, I just wanted to kind of like get those thoughts start churning in our gray matter a little bit, so that when we come up in a couple of weeks, we can talk about it some more.
Okay.
So did you say your property is 210 Timpucci?
I did not, but that is the address.
Okay, all right.
I
'Cause
can't
that's
see
what
your
we-
screen,
It's
so
what we
I-
have on the screen, so. I
Oh,
see-
okay, okay, well, you guys are,
So-
well, I met with Nikki here yesterday, who was gracious and gave me some of her time, and so we talked about it quite a bit.
I'm
yes.
familiar with that property. It's in my neighborhood, and I commend you for your attempts in fixing it up, because it certainly needs it.
I have been trying to get a contract on it since, I think, September of last year. Finally signed it 3 weeks ago. I've been in discussion with Linda, Fire Marshal Linda Johnson, for quite a while. And again, I'm very familiar with the process, so to me, it's like very comfortable. It's just, and Nikki asked me a question yesterday, which is, why do you want this house? Not as a bad rep to any building contractors here, but I would never buy a house that someone was fixing up and flipping, because as I know, like most contractors hide stuff. I just don't want to do that. I just want to do things myself. I have OCD, so I'm a very poor contractor, because everything's on a red line at the end of the day, because I can't let things go. So
Did I hear you correctly? This is going to be your homestead residence?
this is going to be my homestead residence, so it's a very different animal than usual. And my wife grew up here. She went to O'Galley High. I went to FIT for 1 year, and then I disappeared. But this was in the 80s, mind you. So always been residents of Melbourne. Love Indian Harbor Beach. Feels like you're on vacation like 365 days a year. At least that's how I feel. But I don't own a boat, so.
Yeah, I remember when we were looking to buy in 2010, this house was vacant still.
Mr. Mayor?
I don't have the history going that far back, but these code enforcement
Yeah.
cases, well, I'll tell you right now, you guys know the lien amount, right? Because if you don't have this information, you have an idea, it's over $1 million. Yeah, and it's still racking up, because there's 3 different code enforcement liens, and I don't know the individual amounts, I have them here, but it's like, $100 a day, $250 a day, $100 a day, that adds up.
There's 3 liens. There's 3, 2017 was a $25 a day violation, and it's all lawn and weeds, the violations. It's
Well, there's
not-
a soft, I shouldn't tell you this because it hurts me, but there's a soffit that's dropped.
Yeah, but
and-
that's not a code violation yet. We haven't
Okay.
cited it yet, so
So the
if
bottom
you're
line is
gonna
this is.
fix it, then shh.
But I have OCD, I can't help it. I can't help it.
So the bottom line is, when it comes time to truly consider any sort of lien relief, it'll come back before us, and
Sure.
we'll consider it then.
And we have, as a city, gone out there and mowed the lawn and incurred expenses, okay? So, let me be candid here. If, when we went out there and mowed the lawn, at least whatever time frame it was, it should have been cut off, the fine, okay? So, but we're looking at, in something like this where you have a very interested party, our hard costs being,
Right. We've done this before.
plus a little
So
bit of
It's something
just
to.
for something
But
else.
you guys are going to give us all those numbers.
Yes, sir.
We'll consider it when it comes up.
I just wanted to let you know, I mean, it's not because the roof's falling in or anything like that. These were just
Mayor,
lawns. It may be falling in now, but don't say
I'm
anything.
not gonna say anything.
But the code enforcement cases was just overgrown.
right. Mayor, even with the last one we had, when it came to Jamestown, we got some type of an idea of what they're going to do to remedy things. So do you have plans to actually bring this up to code, obviously?
Yeah, and I'm a building contractor. I mean,
Right.
I'm not a great building contractor, but I've been one for over 20 years.
In a timely
So,
manner,
yeah.
I hope. So,
Yeah,
that's
so
it.
it's going to be full code. The hardest part is, can I live with the sunken living room? I love the terrazzo. I almost want to pour concrete in there and raise that sunken, but it's
Denied.
God, I love terrazzo. I can't help it. I got to leave it the way it is. So, anyway, well, thank you
All
very
right.
much for your time.
Thank you. All right, Jose Fue Mayor. Right. That was a whole lesson, learning how to pronounce your name over the years.
All right, I'm Jose Fuemayor. I live at 124 Allen View Drive. And I've been in here for over 35 years or whatever in the city. I like the city for the people or whatever we do here. I just have one question about the dispatch service, which is I didn't make the meeting for Cocoa Beach or in the Atlantic or Satellite Beach, but my concern is, do the city have a backup plan in case of storms here in dispatch service? Because we'll be completely isolated.
John?
Chief Butler, would you like to
Butler?
address that?
Yeah. My concern, Chief, is what about overwhelming phone calls from the Barry Island that one center is trying to achieve? What I'm saying is, I don't understand why the cities didn't get together and do a backup plan. Say, one commando or headquarters for Cocoa Beach, Satellite Beach, and Harbor Beach. Because you know what I'm saying? I care about the people, and I don't see, you know what I mean? Until we get hit with a disaster, and you've been in here probably through this, how are we gonna achieve this? I understand. So my question,
I believe, and the sheriff's office has redundancies
I
and
just opened this
repeaters.
out to you guys because you're gonna be, asked for this, or if something happened, you're gonna have to.
BCSO, they have built-in redundancies and plans for that to reaching all areas of the county. So there is redundancy set in place. Yeah.
Well, that's my main concern. I just want to bring it up. And thanks again for your, okay? Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you. All right, next is Mike Evans.
Mike Evans, 1107 Sioux Drive. So just looking at the whole boat thing you guys are talking through. So I don't own a big boat. I've got a kayak, but that's it, right? 14 feet really isn't that high if you figure trailer, boat, sun shelter, and a long wave antenna. Or like if you have a wire sticking up a couple feet, you could hit 14 feet real fast. That's not that tall. It's certainly not twice the height of a roof line. So just something to think about. You might want to, if you want to exempt the antennas out of that, but like, that's not that tall.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, next is Ken Bowling.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I haven't been here in a while. I live at 1104 Cheyenne Drive. My name is Ken Bowling. I've been here for the last, I guess, about 11 years now. And I live literally across the street from the elementary school, which is a great place to live if you like to see kids coming and going, and I do, because I love kids. And I'm a new grandpa, so that makes it even better. So I came here because I ride my bike 3 or 4 times a day all throughout the city. In fact, I go to Satellite and in the Atlantic, and I drive through our city, almost every street, almost every day. So this whole, like, you all toured and looked at boats, I see them every day, almost every single day, if not multiple times. And it's not about boats, by the way. What I've been troubled with recently are the number of unsupervised youth driving 25, 30 miles an hour electric bikes, harassing me, literally swerving around me, trying to get me to swerve into places where I don't want to be for some reason that gives them their giggles. I was a kid too. All of y'all were too. I misbehaved as well. But this is really dangerous. And there's virtually no control over these kids. I haven't seen any law enforcement action stopping them from harassing seniors. I'm a senior. I'm not as agile as I used to be. I used to be like really hot on a bike. We didn't have electric bikes, and I didn't do 30 miles an hour. And I am terrified that this is going out of control, and the kids are not being regulated at all. And I've seen it happen to other adults. So we've got to think about this from an enforcement perspective. We talked about golf carts and low-speed vehicles, and we did a good job, I think. Y'all did a great job in the city of regulating that. But this is crazy off the chain. They're destroying things. They're riding through properties. They're burning up grass. They're jumping over stuff. They're in front of pedestrians. And I suspect you probably have something to say, Chief. So anyway, you get the point. I'm done. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Okay.
And really, I do appreciate the work you guys do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. With that, we have no more public speakers. Chief, do you want to come up and speak on the e-bikes? Or?
Buying an e-bike. I mean, we've actually arrested someone for that. So we are out there enforcing it. We are writing citations. We are enforcing it. When we hear something, when we see something, we deal with it. If you see something, please call us. We will respond out there and address it. I know we work closely with Satellite Beach about some of that is that's going on. I know we've worked closely with Satellite Beach. There was a couple groups that would we go to pull them over, they take off on us, and we're not chasing kids on e-bikes, so.
Okay.
So I can attest to what Chief is saying. Obviously, we created the ordinance because the issue is growing, and I've seen our police department out there, doing a good job. I live, I call it the north end of Buffalo, Wimico, which they just drag race up and down, and then right there at the north city limits, so they come and go, but. It is a challenge. I know both cities are aggressively working to, rein it back in, so to speak. So I appreciate you coming and voicing your concerns, and we're working towards getting there. Yeah. Just continue the communication. So we'll work on it.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Okay. All right. With that. Unless there's anybody else who wishes to come up and speak.
Motion to adjourn, sir.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Nutt, second by Deputy Mayor Dyer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same side. Motion carries 5-0. We are adjourned.
I opposed.